Okay, welcome back. So, last time we got the basics of life up and running, and we've got now a supply of food, hopefully a supply of water, assuming that this actually melts. So at the moment the water in that pipe is at minus 40 degrees C, but hopefully as the hab warms up that will be fine. I think we might put a piece of radiator on there though, just to speed things along. And we've got some automated smelting running, so I think the next big project we should think about is gas processing. So let's get started. Let's start by making sure that we have closed that so we don't accidentally do anything silly with our helmet, and let's depressurize the airlock. Actually better change the suit battery as well because it's at 17%. Luckily we have a fully charged one in there. Okay, perfect. Oh, storm. Okay, well that was a good start. I guess we'll just wait then. It's very difficult to do very much outside during a storm because visibility is terrible. During a storm at night it's even worse because the torch kind of just makes it worse. It's almost better not to see how bad it is. Anyway, right. The other problem is anything we print is just going to blow away, which is obviously not great. And the solar panels are going to start taking some damage, as will anything loose that's not strapped down, but I think we're in a pretty good state out here. We were prepared. We put all of our ingots into our lovely little ingot store, and look how beautifully peaceful it is in there. Whoa! And okay, maybe not so good. Don't jump in a storm, kids. Right, well that's thrown me a little bit. I was going to start getting to work out here, but I suppose we'll just stand here for a minute. Storms don't normally last too long, which is good, but it's kind of annoying because you can't really do very much outdoors, and at the moment we're just not in a state to do much indoors either, so I think we'll just wait this one out. Although I suppose we could attempt to print a couple of other bits. We mustn't lose that disc. So perhaps we'll see if we can manage to get away with printing a couple of things without them blowing away. So I'm going to make some liquid pipe. Whoops, you can see even as I use the interface I get blown into the machine. So I'm going to try and make one unit of liquid pipe, and I'm going to make 1 unit of liquid radiator. But I'm going to start with the pipe because if it gets blown away it's not the end of the world. It's half a G of iron, but the radiator will need gold and steel, so it's obviously a bit more of an investment. But if you're quick, you can catch it. Right, okay, that's good. Right, and nearly got blown away then. Let's go for the radiator, liquid radiator. Now it needs the steel, which is in one of the other machines, and I don't think I'm going to risk ejecting the steel in this and have it blow away because we're not really in a state to make any more at the moment. So let's just come back inside and get the plumbing lined up for when we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out of there, and let's go back to the tool belt to remove that. This is actually not great because it's not a good spot to put the water bottle. Probably needed 2 pipes, but you know, we've got 1, so we'll have to make do with what we've got. So ideally I would put that there, and then that would give space to put a radiator onto that pipe, and then we'd put the bottle filler into this position here, but obviously that's got a wire in it, so alternatively we could put a curved pipe, but then we'd need a straight pipe, and then we have space to put the filler. So I think I'm still going to put that there. I think I'm just going to reroute the wire slightly. Oops. So if we put the wire across there, look at that, exactly the right amount. Right, and then hopefully the bottle filler really does not behave in a predictable manner when you try and rotate it. There we go, put the bottle filler there, and we'll put the bottle into it. And at the moment that hasn't really achieved a huge amount, except for a little bit more exposed piping, which, well, slightly warming it up. But I think if we put one radiator onto there, that will speed up the rate of melt. It's not too bad. We've still got some water left in the bottles outside. Right, storm's over, so that's good. Okay. Right. First thing we should just quickly do is check how badly these are damaged. 79% and 70%. 79%. Okay. So let's fix those quickly before we do anything else, otherwise we'll forget. So duct tape will fix a damaged solar panel. Just grab it and apply it. You can see one roll will actually fix quite a lot of damage. I mean, we'll definitely be able to fix up all three of these panels. Yeah, with a quarter of a roll left, so that's good. It'll be a little while till we need to make another roll, but there is a spare roll in there as well, and I have a feeling there was another one somewhere, because I think you start with 2 in crates plus 1 in your hand. The other thing it will have also done is damage the lander, but you can see actually that storm was quite short, so it hasn't done too much damage. I think that lander will take another couple of storms like that before it's destroyed, although I'll probably dismantle it before then because it's just going to get in the way. Everything else should be fine, but if you have things like sheets or frames or anything like that that's lying around and it's out here, or ingots or ore that's exposed, that will also take damage during a storm, so just worth noting. Plus the fact that it'll blow away, so you can easily lose stuff. Now, where did we put the steel? I think it's in here. Yes, it is. I think I might also make a stacker, because then we can actually split that. Split the stack of steel. That would be quite useful to be able to do. And I want 1 unit of liquid radiator. And we're going to need some more cables. Well, the good news is, having had one storm, we know we've probably got a little while till the next one. I'm not sure there's a fixed delay, but just statistically it feels like unlikely we're going to have another storm right after that one. I think there is an actual built-in delay. Stackers are really useful actually to put on the end for stuff like this. Probably should just set some up. More generally, I'm going to put one here because actually it's going to get really irritating really quickly otherwise. So let's just do that. If you choose the right design, you'll see there are multiple. You don't want the unloader, but there are 2 different stackers pointing in different directions. So if I pick that one and then rotate it, you'll see the power connection and the handler on this side. Slightly annoying that it always starts at stack size of 1, so if you want like a 10, you've got to do an increase and a decrease. I'm going to stack that to 50. I'm going to connect the wire. There we go. I'll turn that back on. I think that'll probably just pick it up and catch it. Yeah, that's perfect. I was going to say we'll throw that in there, but apparently we won't. You can put a chute between the 2 for extra neatness. It's definitely recommended in terms of stopping things getting blown away between the 2, or if you need an angle on it. I'm just going to do the lazy way for a minute. Okay, I thought that would eject the steel first, but I forgot there was silicon in there. Okay, we'll put the silicon can go back in. Right, and then the other thing I'm going to do, 30 odd cable coils. That'll keep us going for a little while, so I'm going to eject that, and then if I put the steel in there, you'll see it'll now come out nicely sliced up into blocks of 50, well, except for the 48 that should still be in there. So the cool thing now is obviously I can put one in there, and I can put one in there, and I can put one in here. So now all the machines have got some steel in them rather than having one enormous stack. Turn that off for now. It's good to turn off machines you're not using to save power, although I do often leave the stackers on, they don't use very much. Right, let's since that battery is now fully charged from the solars, we'll just switch that out. Actually also quite a good idea while we're here, and I'm thinking about it, just to switch some of these. It's super irritating when you come to use a power tool and there's no charge in it. Look at that. I don't think we've even used the angle grinder. No, okay, there we go, all good. Right, so that's fine. Okay. So we're going to start on some atmosphere processing, so we're going to need an absolute load of frames. Let's get started with those. Probably should have again have stuck a stacker in, although I still never got around to moving this auto lathe back, did I? Which I keep saying I will do. I'll do that before I put a stacker on it, which just means I'll probably still forget to do that as well. How much is in there? Okay, that's finished. Right, we're actually going to need quite a lot, and you see the problem with this is now the lander's now in the way. I kind of don't mind too much in some of this, but it would be nice to be able to start the atmosphere processing here, really. Although we will be able to build it along from here, so let's at least start with that and see where we go. Right, let's. We are going to need quite a lot, so I'm just going to grab 100 iron, whoops, throw it in there and let it start building frames. That can build another 25 while we're in here, and that's probably enough to get going. Cancel the pressurize, I just want to get this down because I really want to get some liquid water. Right, so that's dropped down. What we ought to be able to see here now is a much faster rate. Let's tidy up there. Look at that, look how much faster that is warming up. That's 0.05 degrees every tick, so that really won't take too long now to get to above zero, I hope. I'm not going to stand and watch it because it'll take long enough that will be boring, but hopefully not too long, and then when we need it, this should just fill up nicely with water because we've got quite a lot of water in the pipe. So, with that in mind, let's get back outside. Right, I think that was probably do for now. Okay, that was 14. I'll put some sheets. We'll come back and do some more in a minute, but whoops. This is really not going to plan. Right, so you'll see what I'm laying out here is a really big area. Atmosphere processing does take a lot of space. Just trying to decide which way to arrange it. I think I'm going to probably arrange it across here with the tanks at this end. I was going to do it this way, but I think with the lander being there, it's just a hassle. We'll just go and do it this way. Right, this is a lot of sheets, isn't it? Goodness me. Right, let's do some more frames. Okay. So we should do another 4. 3 now. 2. use it all up. There we go. Right. So what we do need to bear in mind is we will want to continue to run the solar panels along that line as we build, so we'll build the gas tanks out this way. Oh, exactly the right number, it's like it's fate. There we go. Right, so next up, let's get these welded. I expect it'll turn out to have one sheet too few, but one of the reasons that getting gas processing up and running reasonably early is important is that once you run out of fuel in this welder, you've got a bit of a problem. Look at that, I've actually got one too many. Once you run out of welder fuel, you've got a bit of a problem, so it is important to be able to mix gases, purify gases and that kind of stuff early enough on. Just trying to see if there's anywhere else that I forgot to weld, but there actually isn't, so we legitimately have just got one spare iron sheet which can go in there for now, and I'll probably forget all about it for a bit. There we go. Actually, I'm going to grab those chutes since we had a spare, and I'm going to put one in here just for extra tidiness. There we go. Right. Okay, so the key components for our gas processing are we're going to need atmospherics units, one per gas type, but some gas types are more important than others, so we'll prioritise those. I don't imagine we'll have enough resources to make a full set right away, and then the other thing we'll need will be able to make tanks. Now tanks need steel, and you can see we're going to need 20g of steel for each one. We've got 50 in each of the other machines, so in theory we can probably make enough, but what I'm going to do is make one holding tank that we can use for controlling the pressure and just act as a buffer. In the short term that will be useful for retaining the gases we're not purifying. Longer term it's just a useful kind of buffering mechanism on the old atmosphere pressure, reduces the chances of blowing any pipes up. And then I'm going to make one tank for each of the gases that we really need. So oxygen is obviously high priority, we're going to need it for both fuel and for breathing. I'm also going to pull out volatiles so that we can make fuel, and I'm going to pull out nitrogen because I want that into my atmosphere mix. Being on Mars, you tend to end up with more CO2 than you need, but it's easy to get, so we may just dump that in the short term. Longer term, we'll probably use it as propellant in the jetpack because it's cheap, it's easy to get, and unlike pollutant, it's not toxic. So pollutant's pretty good as refrigerant though, so we will hang on to that later on, but in the short term, we'll just keep that in the holding tank. Okay, so let's get to it. So we'll start with a couple of tanks. Use quite a lot from this machine, various things, but I'm going to just eject some steel from here, and we can make a couple more tanks. So this should be enough to make 3 more. So the arrangement we're going to end up with will be our purified gas tanks along here. And they actually need slightly more than one frame each in order to leave enough space for cabling and pipes. So it looks a little bit untidy, but we know that we can't go any further to the right than this because of where the solars are going to need to be. So I'm going to place one here. I'm going to place the next one extra block across. Hopefully by now we've got some more printed. Right, we haven't quite got enough to print the third one, have we? Okay, so again, this one will go. So one more across. Whoops, one more across. Okay, that gives us 3, and I'm going to also place a holding tank, and I'm just trying to work out where the best place for it is. Ideally, you see, I'd probably put it here, but I can't put a frame. Although it's going to let me. Whoops. It's gone a bit mad, but it's going to let me place it. Right, hang on. Okay, it's a bit ugly, but we might place it here. And that's just going to act as a buffer. One of the things you'll need to think about, and actually we're going to need a tool printer for this reason, but you need to start thinking about once you start mixing gases, is actually starting to colour code pipes, because it's super easy otherwise to end up cross-connecting the wrong combination of pipes. And certainly I have more than once filled my hab entirely with fuel and blown it up, or recycled pollutants back in and killed my greenhouse. So colour coding is important, and I would urge you to do it at this point. So we'll get a tool manufactory built so that we can actually make spray paint in different colours, because we've got a few, obviously from the lander, we used up the green, but we have got a few others. But I think we'll probably want some more. I have a colour scheme that I always use. I appreciate there are a few community suggestions around, and there are some clues in some of the equipment, like the filter colours that come from this machine, but there are multiple ways to do this. So I do usually use black for nitrogen, grey for carbon dioxide, white for oxygen, and red for volatiles. However, I usually use brown for pollutant. I usually use yellow for mixed breathable gas, just because that's the default pipe colour, and we've already started laying some of those in things like the airlock. And then I generally don't make a whole lot of nitrous oxide, but I do try and reserve green for that. But I use the dark green for dirty gas, so any waste lines, unless they are too hot, in which case I will generally use pink to indicate that they're hot, and I will use orange for fuel, and that leaves me purple for anything else I might need. So we'll see how that goes as we're building, but that's generally the process I use. I use blue for water, and that happens to be the default for liquid pipes anyway. Now to me that's a bit of a hangover from when there was no segregation between gas and liquid in the game, and actually in theory I could use blue gas pipes to mean something different, but I've got used to working that way, so that works for me. Anyway, enough rambling. We need to start building some atmospherics, so we're going to need to build one for each type of gas we want to purify. There's obviously going to be a fair few of those, so I'm just going to let this run. There's enough in here to make 5, I think. No, 4, because of the amount of copper. That'll get us started. So we'll get 4 of these. We're going to prioritise, as I say, oxygen, because it's used for lots of things, volatiles because I want to be able to make fuel, and nitrogen because I want to be able to make a properly buffered atmosphere. Right, where am I going to put this tool manufactory? Perhaps we'll just put it over here. It's not one we're going to use very often. I'm just trying to find a kind of quiet corner somewhere where it's not going to be too much in the way. I think this is the best spot for it, for now at least. That will do. It's not too far from power cables. I don't want to have to lay in a whole load of new power. That will work. So let's just do that. As I say, it's not one of the most commonly used machines, but we do need it at this stage because I need to be able to produce lots of paint. Right. So flick that in there. Look at that. Right, we're going to need some iron sheets. And of course we'll need some more iron to do that because we've probably just used it all. Oh no, of course I put some back in. Right, and we've got one in here. Oops. Okay, that was not what I meant to do. Oh my goodness. Right, and now I've got more than I need anyway now. I've made far too many. Right, that's still doing those. Right. Okay, that just goes to show that if you're busy trying to save time, sometimes you end up wasting it. There we go. Right, that's those. We've got some spares for later. I'm sure we'll find a use for them at some point. Cable in. Plastic sheets we had in the airlock, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, did we tidy them up? Yes, we tidied them up last time. Look at that. Into there. And get the tool manufactory working. Brilliant. Okay. Right, in the meantime, that's built me. Atmospherics are strange because you can't stack them, but that's built me 4 of those anyway, so that's good. Right, we're going to need some iron. I don't know why it needs iron to make spray paint. I suspect that's probably an early access thing. In the long term, I'm guessing we're going to need to use the chemistry equipment and mix up different colours from different flowers and things like that, but for now, spray paint, super simple, 1g of iron. So khaki, which is the dark green, we're going to use for all of our waste, so I'm going to colour up my buffer tank like that. Whoops, stop. And I also want a black for the nitrogen. I've got a white which I'm going to use for oxygen and a red that I'm going to use for volatiles, because they came in the starting kit. So let's get going. And you might think that this is unnecessary at this stage, but it's so easy to mess this up. It's super annoying if you do something like fill your welder with breathable air instead of fuel, and super dangerous if you do something like fill your hab with fuel instead of breathable air. Right, you'll notice that I've done the middle of these 3 as the oxygen, and that's because I'm going to want to mix that both with nitrogen and with hydrogen in order to make fuel and breathable air. So that's how we're going to lay it out. So let's get some atmospherics. So we want to line these up, get them onto filtration. Now, if you haven't used these before, the way these work, and I always put these a couple of units away from the tank, you can just do one, but it's quite helpful to have a bit of extra space for cross pipes. So pop them in here. You'll see there was an input and an output. So the input pointing straight through and lined up with the tank, and then there's a waste on the side. So this waste we're going to cycle back through. I've actually just put the wrong thing down there because I forgot to. This is the downside of it not stacking. You have to remember on each one to change it to the filtration. There we go. So what's going to happen is we're going to put the dirty gas in input, and we're going to cycle the unfiltered waste back into the same line and the filtered into the tank. And that what goes in that filtered will be whatever combination of filters we put in here. So you can actually put 2 different filters in and make a mix of gas. I don't recommend doing that because what you can't control is over time the exact balance and mix that you'll end up with. So it's not very good. You can't use it to make fuel that will necessarily combust, and nor can you use it to make breathable air, because even if the ratio is right at a certain time, it may not stay right in the longer term. So I would personally always recommend filtering each gas separately. The other one's going to need to go out there. Each gas separately, and use that to remix it with the gas mixer in the correct ratios. That way, if you run out of one of the gases and the ratio gets wrong, the gas mixer will just stop working rather than providing you with the wrong mix of gas. So let's get some filters building, and then we've got the rather bigger job of putting together a whole lot of piping. So we're going to need 2 nitrogen, whoops, and I'm going to have to go and get some more iron out anyway. We're going to need an absolute ton of iron to do this. I may even have to go mining some more, but let's hope not. That would be nice if we got enough here. But let's chuck this in. Atmospherics is very iron hungry. Right, so that's our 2 nitrogen filters, and by putting 2 in rather than 1, you can just get away with 1, but obviously if you've got 1, when it runs out it will stop. If you've got 2, when the first one runs out, you've got a little bit of time. So ideally I try and put 2 in each one, but the most important thing is to get at least 1 in each, and then we can start doing something useful. So we'll make a couple of oxygen, and we'll make 1 more volatile just so that we've got a full set in there. So other things we're going to need, we are definitely going to need 2 gas mixers, 1 to make fuel, 1 to make breathable air. So we may as well print those now. Just do that while it's... Okay, that's those. I haven't quite worked out where I'm going to use the mixers yet, so I'll just drop that down there. It's not ideal, but we'll come back and do that in a minute. We're going to need a load of pipes. I'm actually going to make a stacker before I start making a load of pipes, or it's going to become a real mess really quickly. So let's get a stacker building over here. And we're also going to need to be able to fill canisters, so we're going to need some canisters and also some canister storage. So let's make a couple of those. We're going to want at least 1 for pure oxygen and 1 for fuel, because whilst we may deliver fuel directly to the furnace, and potentially if we build a gas fuel generator later on directly to that, we'll also need to be able to put it into canisters in order to be able to refuel the hand welder. I usually supervise while we're printing these canister storages, because when they come out of the printer, as you probably saw from the last one, they fly slightly strangely, and they don't stack. So definitely a job to just be standing near, otherwise you can find that they've flown halfway across the map or something. Right, let's this is actually a bit tight for space here. Okay, this is where my lack of planning with the machine positioning is a bit of a problem. I think we're actually going to have to, it's going to start to make space a bit tight. We're actually going to have to put the stacker in here. Okay, well let's just do that. That was a little bit silly of me, but longer term we may reside all of the machines. But the other issue that we're going to quite soon run into is going to be power, because one thing about atmospherics is it's quite power hungry. So we'll probably have to run a second power cable, and I haven't really left a lot of space to do that stupidly, so yay me, basically. Let's see how we go. Right, okay, that's rerouted that. Hopefully that's given me enough space there to put this in. I think I might do this and turn it this way though, because it's almost impossible to use otherwise. Yeah, this is really not very well positioned. This was not my best piece of building ever. Never mind. Right, I'm just going to get that to there. At least it's done. And stack that to 50. this is where the chutes come in handy. Whoops. Luckily we've got some spares here. So one, whoops, corner chute in there. There we go. Beautiful. Well, really not, but vaguely functional. Right, let's start building some pipes. Right, I am literally just going to let that run. That's going to make 150 pipes, which might seem insane, but I guarantee we will use them. Right, we're also going to need a whole load of cable because we're going to have to connect up that system. I actually think we're probably going to need to build some high capacity cable, heavy cable, and run it to a transformer down there. So let's see what we can come up with. Let's start with some heavy cable. We've got no gold. Let's go grab some gold. Okay. Right. So whilst that's working, then let's work out where the next one of these needs to go. So you'll see if you count this, it's 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the next one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Went slightly faster than I meant to, but that's where the next one's going to need to go. So let's just put that down. We'll put the tank in when we've built it, but at least then it's in roughly the right place. Right, that's the first stack of pipes. So simple bit with the pipes first is obviously we need to connect them like that from the output of the filtration into the tank, but we're then also going to connect this here and it will end up connected like that, so that whatever's not filtered that goes in will go back around the loop, and all of these filters can then run in parallel. It gets a bit energy hungry to do this, but we'll add some automation later which will allow us to turn off filters that are not required. So you'll see there's a bit of a pattern here, so while we're on T-junction you can see we just need to plonk that down and again, and I've run out of pipe. There we go. So we know that straight across, straight across, straight across. I usually like to try and lay in the basic piping like this before I start doing anything too fancy, because once we start trying to work out where we need to put pipes for mixers and stuff, if you haven't at least laid in the basic pipes, it gets really confusing really quickly. So you can see what we've got here is a pipe here that will contain waste. At the moment that's not connected to anything but waste, and it goes into all of these filters in parallel, and for each one it's going to pipe something into a tank. It's going to recycle everything back. Now I said we'd have a buffer tank, so we're going to do that here. So we're going to connect this down here. Let's get the wrench and we can, okay. Right, so whoops, okay, so that's going to be all of our waste is going to come in here. It's going to buffer into that tank and it's going to feed into all of these, and then they can filter it off. Now let's start thinking about how we're going to mix some of this stuff. So one thing we will want is the ability to mix nitrogen and oxygen. So we'll need to do something between these two tanks, and the same over here with oxygen and volatiles. But we're also going to need to draw out some pure oxygen in order to be able to feed that directly into the suit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Whoops. There we go. Get there in a minute. I'm going to put a cross section here, and I'm going to try and figure out as we go how much space I've got. Ideally, what I want here is that can connect now to a tank, although I'd like space to pressurize it. So actually I'm going to take it one more, because we're going to want a pressure regulator on there. I'm obviously mindful of the fact that we've got to wire all this up as well in a minute. Usually I find I have to redo the piping plan about 3 times before I can fit everything together the way I want it. But let's see if we can make this work. Probably we can't. Right, so we'll have a pressure reg, will ultimately go in there, but in the short term let's just put a piece of straight pipe and connect that there. And then what we'll be able to do is to take one of these and connect it on top. Right, so that's now effectively going to fill this oxygen, or this will fill a tank with oxygen to whatever pressure's in there. Now that's why I say we want a pressure regulator, because we actually want to pressurize that up, probably higher than what's naturally in the tank. But we also need to think about where we're going to put these mixers, right? So we want to be able to mix clean air, which is going to be a combination of nitrogen and oxygen. So what we could probably do here, I'm just trying to work out the best arrangement, probably here. It means we'll have to take a little bit of a convoluted route with the clean air, but I think if we connect it here for the first mixer, what we can do is put that there. The clean air can come out the back here, and we'll wrap that round in a minute. Let's put that there and just connect this up. Okay, so as long as I can actually make all those wires fit together, that will hopefully work. You can see we've already got quite a confusing mess of pipes and not very clear what's what, so I'm going to start actually spraying some of these up so that we're clear. So this is nitrogen coming in here. Obviously much more efficient to spray these up in a stack, but you know, I'll just do it this way for now. It's a bit clearer what I'm doing. So this is the waste gas, which I said we would use khaki for, so that's coming in here. We'll definitely need to print several more cans of this one, but at least it starts to clarify what's going on. Right, we'll finish that in a minute. Now what we need to find now is the white. Right, so then the oxygen is going to come in here. Really important that you also do the canister fillers in the right colour, so that you don't accidentally put the wrong canister in. Right, so this here is, we can see where these two are going to mix, and I said earlier we're going to use yellow for breathable air, so we'll leave that mixer as yellow, and the pipe coming out of it will be breathable air. Now we've obviously got two inputs, input and input 2. What we're going to aim for here is a ratio of 70% nitrogen, 30% oxygen. That's ideal, and then later on we'll mix that mix again with some carbon dioxide in order to provide gas for the greenhouse, but we can in the short term manage by just venting the waste tank into the greenhouse to introduce some CO2, which will be needed for the plant growth. Right, so lots of stacks of pipe, probably more stacks of pipe than I should be carrying around really. Okay, let's clear that one by just putting it in there. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with that bit yet, but and actually I'm going to save myself some paint by doing that, and then that's now a stack of khaki pipes. Good, right, so the next one we want to think about is where we're going to put the gas mixer for fuel. So we've got one here. Now for this, I think obviously we've got to just work out the inputs and outputs pointing in slightly different direction. I think what we'll do is something about here. I think that will work, because I think what it will allow us to do is to connect oxygen here, hydrogen here, volatiles I should say. The game's not quite sure what gas that actually is, because when you burn it, it produces carbon dioxide rather than water, so it's obviously not really hydrogen, but there we go. And spray this up in red so we're very sure that we don't accidentally mess that up. Not a good combination to accidentally get burnable gas mixed up with anything else. And we're going to go and quickly get some orange paint. Ooh, got pipes all over the place. Right. Okay, so this mixer I'm going to paint orange, and the pipes coming off it I'm also going to paint in orange. Now what I need to think about is how we're going to deliver this to a couple of things. One is the furnace, so that's just going to be a simple bit of pipe work out the back here, which will probably line up here and just figure out how to run that. But the other thing is we will need to deliver it into a pressure regulator to pressurize the other canister storage. There's not actually a lot of wriggle room here, so we might have to get a little bit clever and might have to run it over the top of that red pipe, I think, and whoops, do that. So that would mean we'll put a T-junction in here. I think this is probably better, because then we've got a bit more room and we can pressurize it as we need to. So again, we'll need one straight pipe for pressurizing, and then we'll have a corner. Actually, we could just pressurize it and have it go there. That will work fine. Okay, so let's grab that and connect it up. Okay, and then that's going to be orange. That's going to be orange. Right. So we're going to need two pressure regulators, so let's get those built. And then we're going to have to figure out how to wire it up. So I'm going to just start some more cable running. And then we'll go in here and we'll go... Oh, we need more iron. Oh, game just lagged for a moment. Not quite sure what happened there. Right. Luckily we have one more block. It would have been frustrating otherwise. In there. And we're going to build two pressure regs that we can use to pressurize the portable gas tanks. And in fact we're going to use more pressure regulators later on, so we will need to get some more copper in there before we do it, but we're going to use them to control the pressure in the hab as well, both input and output. Right, so let's put one in here, and the other one will need to go in there, which means I'll need to just take that piece of pipe out. Drop that in there. There we go. Let's get that out of the way. Again, let's make sure we get the colours right so that we know what it is we're pressurising. Otherwise that could also go very wrong. Okay, now we've just got to try and figure out how to wire up this mess. Once we've done that, I've got to turn the stacker back on, so this had finished after printing just one, which wasn't the best. Right, of course we were printing heavy cable as well. So okay, right, let's get the connections in here. So we will need sensor connections and power on all of these. So I'm going to start by just putting these junctions in, because that's an easy piece of cabling. You'll see we need to cross this pipe. You can do that with a straight cable, but that's all. So again, it's just nice and easy. Do these ones, and we're going to need to similarly cross that. So let's lay this in to connect up. Oops, not enough cable.
Power critical.
Right, better go and deal with that in a moment. In the meantime, let's see how much we can do. I could turn the light off at this point. We don't need that in the day. And you'll see I'm leaving myself space for other things I know we'll need. Now, we're going to need to get power to the pressure regulator, and we'll probably also want a data line to that tank in the longer term. So I'm going to connect that there. I'm going to connect that there. I'm going to run this straight down here. Whoops, except for the fact that I forgot to make that a junction. Okay, so that's that one. And we're also going to have to figure out how to get power into here. This looks a little bit more of a challenge, I will be honest, because whilst we can put one across there, we can't put one there. I actually think we've made a bit of a challenge for ourselves here, but we'll figure it out. Always do. Right, okay, but in the meantime, that's not coming to connect here, so let's just get that connected. Right, hopefully we've got some more cable, because we're going to need it. The atmosphere processing is fairly resource intensive to build, as you can see, but it'll be worth it. Right, these mixers need powering, and this also needs powering, and this is where we're going to get into some fun, I think. That one will go through there, so that's at least a start. How are we going to connect that? And also, let's do that. So the obvious thing to do is to run a cable across there, but I actually want to be able to put a meter on there longer term. So I'm just going to see if I can see another way to connect it, but I can't. So I think we'll just do that for now. We'll put the meter on that, run there. This is going to have to connect around the back. There's just no other way of doing it. And it's going to have to connect to that one as well. We've got the same problem. So this is beautiful, but what we've now got is a whole series of devices around the back here that don't actually connect to anything. So let's, oops, one more on there, that was stupid. Come on, get up there. Right, okay, so let's see if we can salvage this a little bit and then make it look at least vaguely like this was what I intended to do. Okay, so I think that's everything connected, but obviously none of this is connected to power, nor is it obviously connected to any sort of input. But there is a reason for that, so let's turn this off for a minute. I'm going to build a transformer and I'm going to run another high power circuit down here, except we need more iron and we've run out, so perhaps we won't be doing that quite so soon. On the plus side, we've got lots of cable now, which is good because you can kind of never have too much cable. So I've got a 50 stack, I'll just chuck that spare 7 in there. Let's how much iron have we got left in there? Don't really want to have to eject everything. Iron's pretty much the last thing that comes out, but I think we're going to have to. Right, and then the iron should be let's throw that in there for a minute. Let's build one transformer. We're going to use this heavy cable. We've got no more spare, always worth checking. I think I'm just going to put some of these pipes away. We've almost set up too many pipes. That's okay. We'll use all this stuff in the end. Right, so we're going to put transformer, and what that's going to do is allow us to control the amount of power coming off here. Just trying to work out. Kind of want to put it. Whoops. Kind of want to put it here, but then that's just going to make it really tight to move. So I'm probably going to have to put it a bit further down, honestly, which means we're going to have to print more heavy cable in order to make it work. Fine, that's what we'll have to do. Heavy cable. There we go. And then in the meantime, we can just put some little cable on here. The reason I'm doing this is I'm fairly certain if I connect that atmospheric setup directly to the rest of the cable network, we will exceed the maximum current that the light cable can take and burn it out, and we'll burn out all sorts of cables all over the place. So I'm just going to avoid the whole situation by putting in a transformer, and then we can control it. Right, so that's all of that fitted. 6 is probably enough, actually. Well, that'll be 7 now because I just had it click again. There we go. Right, 7's definitely enough. So we'll put this in here. That's more than enough. That's okay. We're going to use a few of these in different places as we start to build up a more complicated power network. So let's just put that in there in anticipation of the next one we'll want to connect. And actually, to be honest with you, we could probably just fit that there, ready to go. We're bound to use it. Right, so what we can now do is we can now change the setting on this, so we can actually safely turn this right up to the maximum without burning out the cables. So we're going to do that because you can put 5 kilowatts through the light cable, and we're going to turn that on, and hopefully that's connected there, that's turned on. In theory, if I've done this right, I should now be able to turn this on and it's working. Okay, but of course there's no gas being input, so at the moment what we've done is built an amazing complicated mix, but really with not much going on behind it. So this is where I probably should have brought the labeler and just dialed it in, but let's whack the pressure up on this so that we can start to pressurize some oxygen. There we go, that'll be nice. Don't go over 10,000. If you want to use a normal cylinder, it will blow up. But bear in mind that if you pressurize it to 10,000 at night time when it's cold, and then it gets warmed up during the day, you're going to have an explosion. So that's why you'll see I'm dialing these up to numbers that are kind of in the 8,000 range, not being hugely scientific about it, I'll be honest. However, we do need to set this mixer, and we do need to be scientific about that. So the mixer here, we've got input 2 is the hydrogen, input 1 is the oxygen. We need a 2-to-1 ratio in order to make this burn efficiently. So we're going to go 3367. It's as close as we're going to get. So that's the right mix for efficient fuel. So now all we have to do is the task of actually connecting this to something. We've actually got an atmosphere processing center up and running, but no atmosphere to go into it. So what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to start with is 2 pressure regulators, which we're going to connect up to the hab. One for input and one for output. Whoops, I forgot to recharge my battery, didn't I? So let's do that now. That's a lesson about putting things off. Right, so we're going to build 2 pressure regulators, except there's not enough iron. Okay, we're going to go and get some iron. That's what we're going to do, because otherwise we're just going to constantly be running into lack of iron problems. So let's dump some of these spare pipes in here for now. Go do that, and then while that's smelting we can start laying some pipe work in. We may as well take advantage of the fact we've got our auto smelter. We're also going to put a separate ice crusher in out here as well. We're going to use that in order to crush oxide and volatiles ice, which will obviously allow us to feed those gases in to this as well. And I will connect up the one that's in the hab ultimately to the atmosphere processing. Is that full? That's pretty much full. Okay, we'll take a chance. Hopefully we won't have another storm so soon after the last. Let's go get some iron. Before we do, let's just check that actually we've got power in the drill. 49%, we may as well have. There we go, 100%. Right, let's go find some iron in the dark. Good news is we've got enough machinery now that you can see. If I turn the light off, particularly if you jump around a bit, you can quite clearly see where the base is. So as long as we don't go too far over the horizon, we can hopefully find our way home even in the dark. I'm also following on my compass in the bottom right a 90-degree course, so I know that if I do a 70-degree course just by dead reckoning, I'll end up somewhere pretty close to the base. And I also know if I get as far as the hill, I've gone kind of too far, right? So the problem is we just can't see very far in the dark, and I'm obviously having to roam around a little bit. But you can just about still see the blinking lights of the machinery over there, so we're all good. And actually I'm just going to take a quick check on what angle that was at. Now I can't see the blinking lights of the machinery. There it is. So it's at 275. Okay, so 85 degrees, and I'm going directly away from it. So somewhere over here. There we go. There's some iron. Look at that. It's so frustrating when you do get lost at night. It's worth making the effort not to do it. Best case scenario, you can find your way home in daylight. Worst case scenario, you just end up dead, depending on how lost you get. My best advice if you do get lost at night is just stop moving. Come back to the problem in daylight. You're much more likely to find your way home, but the more you wander around trying to figure it out in the dark, the more likely you are just to end up completely lost. Right. That will do. It's even worse once you've dug a hole, because then you've got to remember which way you came out. So the base should be somewhere about this way. No, wait, I'm going exactly the wrong direction. Having just said what I just said. There we go. Right, you can see the lights over there. Right, we'll turn our light off. Yeah, you can see it. Probably best not to run around too long in the dark with no light on, because if we fall down a hole it'll be more confusing. Also can see that I'm starting to get a little bit low on hydration, so I think we probably better grab another water bottle and go in for a quick drink. Let's get back first. Really did go quite a long way, didn't we? So we'll get in and do that. Then I think we will finish this video. There we go. Right. So we've got some iron smelting. Let's grab some water. Okay, so I think we'll just get this in here and have this water. Oh dear. As you can see, we've managed to kill the potato plants because the temperature's dropped too low, and that's because of the water that we had in here melting and bringing the temperature down. So that wasn't too clever, and there's nothing to be done there other than just to clear that. Luckily we did manage to get more seeds than we used, so we have made a slight gain in the number of potato seeds, but it is a bit slight. 14 degrees is too cold for potato at the moment. I forgot to open my helmet. I really shouldn't be able to do this, but you can see that's now filling up because that water's above freezing point. I'm going to open my helmet just to prove I can, and you can see it's not necessarily a problem in here.
Oxygen critical.
Flush our waste as well. It's not too far below, but 15 degrees is the cutoff. And you'll see also the water in there has reached 15 degrees because it's become ambient with the room, and the water in here is also 15 degrees. So that's just a bit of a cautionary tale about dumping ice into your hab and leaving it to melt. You can see the actual ice crusher itself is still at minus 15, so it's still really cold, but it has obviously brought the temperature down in here quite a bit. Now it's going to warm up over time anyway because it is a greenhouse, so I'm not too worried. I'm going to carry on for a bit. We've got some more food, or certainly we have got some more seeds, so I'm not too worried, and I'm going to let that just bring the temperature back up again with another day. So let's close the helmet, lock the helmet, let's go back outside and finish hopefully setting up some pressure regulators so that we can supply the right air temperature to the hab. The other thing we're then going to need to start thinking about is temperature control, both cooling and warming, because once we start feeding gas in, that gas is going to depend upon the temperature of what was fed in, and also it's obviously going to over time stabilize to the outside temperature, which is very cold. I do it that way because it's actually easier, it's more energy efficient to warm it up than it is to cool it down, but there are more advanced setups where you actually put these tanks inside a room, pressurize the room and keep that room at say 20 degrees and keep your gas basically at room temperature, and that can work quite well. And later on, as we build the base out, what we'll probably do is mix the oxygen and nitrogen out here and pass them into a tank which is actually inside as mixed air. That way, worst case scenario, if the tank pops for some reason, we will overpressure the base, which isn't great, but at least it will be with breathable air rather than something toxic or flammable. I try generally to keep the toxic and flammable gases outside so that if something goes wrong and it bursts, at least it doesn't pollute and kill everything and or burn my base down. Right, so with all of that said, let's get some more iron and get this done. So we're going to need 2 pressure regulators, one for input and one for output. Oh, I should have got more copper while I was there. Whoops. And we're going to need passive vents. We're only going to need 2 of them, one for the input and one for the output side. Those will get placed inside the hab. So let's grab the pressure regulators out of there. I didn't actually check, but I think, oh no, it's only done one. Should have left it go a bit longer, shouldn't I? Never mind. So those will go inside, so I'll throw them in the airlock. Now, we're going to need to think about where we're going to set these up. I think actually we're going to need another frame or 2. Probably better to do it anyway. Okay, let's just let that build. And set them up around here. Right, certainly we need one there. I think we'll put them here. Whoops, I've finished then. Right, where's the iron sheets? There they are. And one more. Okay, one extra. Right, we're going to need a lot of pipes. Okay, let's be really clear which is clean and which is dirty at this end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a straight pipe through the wall here that we're going to pump. Now let me get this the right way around. We'll pump the dirty air out this side, it'll be slightly easier. And we're going to put the clean in here. We can arrange the vents wherever we want to inside, or probably just put them on the floor, but for now I just need to make sure we're really clear where the pipes are going. Right, and what we're going to do is we are going to thing is with pressure regulators is that actually the longer the length they have to work with, the slower they will work, so there is a bit of a trick to trying to put them as close to where you want them as possible, which I've basically done a little bit wrong, but there we go. Let's take that out of there, do that there, whoops, and then right, let's, of course all this will also need to be powered, but right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a forward pressure regulator in the yellow line, which is going to be the air going in. On this line we're actually going to put a back pressure regulator. This is going to suck the air out, and although these are not connected to power yet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set, whoops, so we're going to start with both of them set to 100, but actually we want to flow the air in, but we also want to suck it out. So I'm actually going to set the back pressure regulator slightly lower and the input slightly higher, so that should actually force a circulation of air over time. So now what we need to do is to start connecting this up. So I'm going to just connect this over here. Right, actually let's save painting it. I've done that wrong. Amazing. Should have been there. Right, so we'll just run this down here. This is the kind of the easy bit because I have no idea how I'm going to connect up the clean air, but you know, I'll figure that out in a minute. You can see we do need a lot of pipes, so all these stacks of pipes I've got in here that may have looked a bit crazy, actually we're probably going to use them all. So we connect this along here. Okay, that's good. We will need more waste pipes later on because we've only done some of the gases, but that gets us started. Okay, now we need to connect somehow that yellow pipe there all the way down there. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably just try and launch it from here in a straight line, as long as the lander doesn't conflict with building, but I think we'll get away with this. Nice bit of fancy footwork here, balancing on the pipe as I build it. Probably fall off. Am I going to end up with one piece too few? No. Yes, I am. Oh, why does that always happen? Right. Where did I put the... Okay, I thought we had another stack of yellow pipe, but we haven't. I'll grab this then. And now I don't really want to have to paint that, so I'm actually going to just do that. Right, let's go all the way back along here and connect that, and all the way back along here. Now this is where it's important. We haven't actually done the painting on here, so it's important not to mess up the colours and mix things wrongly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the breathable air. We need to get it from there to there. So I'm trying to think about the way to do this in the least complicated manner for later on. I probably haven't really laid this out in the most sensible way I could have done, honestly, but that's how it goes. So there's a couple of choices. The obvious one to me is if we actually deconstruct these two frames, we could run it in one block below the top of these, under here, and then it could pop up somewhere over here. We could run it around and connect it. I mean, we could actually deconstruct all of this and mine out underneath, but that's starting to feel a bit messy. But I think that's probably the easiest solution for now. Unless I fall through and get stuck, which would obviously be bad. So let's do that. Let's bring that up there. Okay, that's that one fixed. I actually think we're probably best off running these a little bit further, maybe even right through, so I'm going to put that into there, drop them there. Let's fix up these two. I don't really want to be relying on the jetpack longer than necessary, not least because I'd quite like to be in a state that we can reuse that nice nitrogen shortly. Right. Okay, so we've only got 3 units of pipe left. We're definitely going to need some more. Just start that running and just kind of let it do its thing, I guess. Right, so in the meantime, let's dismantle that frame. Let's run that through. Oops, there. Let's rebuild that. Okay, there we go, that does the job. Right, so whilst we're making some more pipes, I'm going to actually just connect the power up to these pressure regulators as well. Slightly annoyingly that they're probably should have built them the other way around, then we could have shared one power input, but there we go. I didn't. All things are solvable with enough wire. There we go, and then I'll just run that down there. I'll just connect it onto here, I guess. So if I put it out here. Go. Right, so let's turn these on. We're going to need some more khaki paint as well in a minute. Right, that might be enough pipe actually. Right, okay, hopefully this is enough pipe between that and whatever's in here. 31 should be. And we'll build that round there. There we go, connected. Oops. And we've still got a bit of pipe left, so that's good to know. Right. Okay, now let's just get tidied up a bit over here. I'll store a little bit of this back in a minute, but in the short term let's just do this to avoid confusion. Whoops. Nearly sprayed the cable, not the pipe. Okay, good. So now you can see really clearly we've got the fresh air pipe and we've got the waste pipe, and they are different. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go inside. Actually, before we go inside, I'm going to turn these pressure regulators. Oh, no, I've already turned them on. Right, we're going to go inside. That's what we're going to do. Yep. I said we were going to go inside. We should have just gone inside. Why didn't we just go straight inside? And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect these passive vents. Now, when we first connect this, obviously that pipe is empty, and therefore it's going to reduce the overall pressure in the hab because it's going to suck air in and through. Conversely, on this side, we've probably already got a little bit of pressure if there's anything in the system. Otherwise, it's going to do the same, but only going to go as far as those pressure regulators. So it shouldn't make a huge difference. There we go. You'll see the pressure's dropped a little bit. It's kind of starting to try and equalise a bit now. And the reason I wanted to bring this in here was I want to spray that so we're really clear. That is the waste air that's being sucked out of the hab.
Low.
This is the clean air that's coming in. And we can also start to connect this now. It should be all, it's unfiltered. We don't really know what it is going to be. It could be any combination of gas. So we're going to treat it as actually as a dirty gas line. Oh, that was a slightly strange whatever happened there. We're going to treat it as a dirty gas line, and actually we're not going to vent this straight into the hab anymore. It served its purpose doing that. It gave us a bit of extra nitrogen, but actually what we want to do now is to connect it to the dirty gas line. Just dismantle that. We haven't got anything like enough pipes, again, becoming a bit of a common theme. However, we'll run that around the outside and we'll connect it up to the dirty gas line, and that will allow us to crush ice in here and have it take any gas element and feed it into the atmosphere processing. Right, I'm just having a bit of a tidy up because we've got lots of junk in here. I did promise I'd do it last time. So I'll do some of it now. What's that? Did I just see under there? No, that was seeds, that's okay. Right, so in the meantime the temperature in here is 17 degrees, so it's just about warm enough for planting, but I'm going to wait until morning and plant then. There's no point in planting at night anyway. Right, 14 pipe. Well, it might be enough, you never know. It's worth a try, isn't it? So let's drop that there for a minute. There's method to my madness. Now this requires a steady hand because I want to deconstruct that piece of pipe, but I don't want to miss and deconstruct that iron frame. Right, and the reason I want to do that was so we can get a nice stack of. So the good thing about running it along the edge there is, whoops, you can see we can access it from out here. Now, when we connect it, we actually want to be really careful we don't connect it this side of the pressure regulator, because if we do, whatever comes through this line from crushing ice is just going to vent straight back into the hab's atmosphere. So we need to connect it that side, because that will stop it from flowing back the other way. So we just need to be a little bit cunning about how we do this, but I think we can do it by Just pass it over the top. Actually, I probably may as well have kept it one frame higher and dropped it in. Right, hang on, let's get this here. There we go. So it's always really important to make sure that if you're connecting any vents to this green line, that you make sure you have a valve or a pressure regulator or something to stop backflow, because otherwise you will end up poisoning your air supply somewhere. You can use the manual valves, and if I'd brought them out I would, in fact I'll go and get them while we're printing some more pipe. You can use the manual valves. There is a configuration that you can use on them that makes them one-way flow valves. It's fairly recently added and it's extremely helpful. So what you can do is you can put them in, and if you again use the mouse wheel you'll see they build. I'm trying to get it to an angle where you can see the arrow. There's an arrow on the top there that shows which direction the flow goes in. So that's very useful as well for just making sure that you haven't got anything the wrong way round. So I'm actually going to put a one-way flow valve in here. A couple of reasons. One, I just think it's probably a good safety precaution, but number two, having shorter lengths of pipe means they will fill faster, and that was obviously quite a long piece there, but that means whatever comes out of here will go that way, nothing's coming back this way, so I think that's probably a wise precaution. Right, let's see if we've got enough pipe now. I think we might well have. So we'll just do that, and then hopefully we're done and we've got some atmosphere processing up and running. We just need to connect it. So we just connect this here. There we go. So that's all connected there. And let's put that pipe away. And I think all that remains to be done now, you'll see this battery starting to drain quite fast now, so we will need to deal with that. But if we look at this waste pipe here, we should be able to see that it's now containing some mix of gases, and this is what's coming out of the hab. And if we start turning all this stuff on, this is going to really kill the battery, of course, but we turn all of this on, we should start to get, I'm going to leave that one off for a minute actually, because there is a slight risk with this mixer that we overpressurize this pipe. However, if we now look at this, we'll see there's pure nitrogen going into there, pure oxygen into there, there's our H2 in there. Our air pipe of clean air, let's find it over here, you can see is currently empty, and that's because it's getting sucked through this pressure regulator faster than it's being created, so it's effectively a vacuum in there as it pumps it through here. However, if you watch this over time, what you'll see will be that the pollutant, the hydrogen and the CO2 will gradually get stripped out of that atmosphere, because this is pumping in a combination of oxygen and nitrogen, and it's sucking out anything else, but it's only going to start sucking it out once that pressure exceeds the back pressure regulator, which, whoops, it's incredibly hard to see now because of where I've built this, but which is obviously set at 98. So for now, the mix that side and this side slightly different. There's very little gas coming through, but as we start to add more gas to the system, it should start to work. So what we should be able to do, if I've wired this up correctly and I haven't screwed anything else up, is if we come in here, should be possible. And I'm not going to start with volatiles just in case I've done something wrong, to add the oxide in there. Obviously there's a slight risk because you saw it was sat inside the input chute for a moment there. In the temperature that you get inside here, that's obviously going to be melting. You'll see what's coming out of there is oxygen and nitrogen. That's what comes out of this, but you'll see how pressure's dropping rapidly as it pumps it out. It's very cold what's being pumped out, but it is pumping it out. And you can see the pressure in the hab here is gradually creeping up, even though the temperature is dropping. So obviously you'd expect the pressure to go up as the temperature goes up, because as you heat gases they expand. But this is a genuine increase in volume, and that's because of that stack of oxides we've just melted. And you can also see that the nitrogen amount's going up, but actually the percentage of oxygen, although the total amount is going up as the volume increases, the percentage of oxygen is actually dropping very slightly, because we're really obviously trying to get to a target mix of 30% oxygen, 70% nitrogen. It's just the issue we have is not enough nitrogen, and that's a common problem, especially on this Mars map. So I'm going to throw that in there. Obviously that was already turned on, so you see it just consumed it straight away. You can see it's 10% nitrogen on that, so that's good. Water ice is a good source of nitrogen, so we will throw some more of that through. We just need to be careful we don't over-pressurize the water pipes when we do that and burst them. And once this is emptied and we're feeling a little bit more brave, I'll throw in a volatile as well, but we obviously really want to be careful not to mix oxygen and hydrogen anywhere that it could ignite, although it won't at -5, so I think it's cold enough. So let's give that a quick go. See what's coming through here now. Look at that, a bit more nitrogen, a lot more hydrogen. Okay, I think that will do us for now. And the last thing I'm going to do before we finish this video is I'm just going to come outside and just have a look at the state of the tanks out here. And then next time we'll add some processing for carbon dioxide, because that's very useful for the greenhouse, and some of the other gases. But for now, I'll just have a look at the state of things. So we've got quite a bit of very cold oxygen, but oxygen. Quite a bit of nitrogen at the moment, although I suspect the rate that's going down, that won't last long. Usually what you find is that your nitrogen tank is empty, and you've got oxygen building up because it's just too difficult to get to the 70% nitrogen quickly. But over time you'll get there by various processes will capture bits of it, and it gives you a nice stable atmosphere once you can get to that point. So we've got here the hydrogen building up. I haven't turned on that mixer, so this pipe network is still empty, but let's just flick it on for a minute. Get a little bit of gas mix in there, and you see it's a nice 1/3, 2/3 mix going in there. Nice and cold. We need to be careful that doesn't get too hot or it will ignite, and it could blow the pipe up, but more likely what will happen will be you'll just have a whole load of pollutant and carbon dioxide in there. And then on this side, this is obviously trying to now pressurize, and we're going to use this to refill the welder. You can see it's already up at 5 MPa, which is pretty good. We're going to obviously target about 8.5, and we'll use that to refill the cylinder. Similarly on this side, we've got 8.5 for the oxygen, so it should be possible. Did I just hear the noise of a ruptured pipe? No, maybe I didn't. It should be possible to now connect our oxygen tank and refill it
critical
directly in there. Of course we get the warning, but look at that, nice and charged up with pure oxygen. So next time what we'll do is come up with processing for waste so that we can actually dump this carbon dioxide and feed that into the system. It's fairly simple. We're just going to put a volume pump onto one of these and feed it into the dirty line and allow the processor to do its thing. But more importantly, next time we're going to look at some automation, because if you look at the state of the poor old battery, it's charged back up to for green during the course of the day, but the sun's already quite low in the sky, and I'm pretty sure that over a course of a few days that's actually going to run the battery down. Now we could solve the problem by just adding yet another solar panel. At some point we'll have to, but actually the simplest solution is these things are really quite power hungry, and if you look at what's in this pipe, you will see right now it's only carbon dioxide and pollutant, so why on earth are we still running these? So if I turn that off, that's going to save power. Of course, what will then happen is nitrogen starts to build up in here. So what we're going to do is build some logic to say let that happen until it gets to a certain level, and then flick it on until it drops below that level again. So what we'll see will be this thing constantly sort of flicking on and off like this, but it actually will use a lot less power. And there are different ways to configure that. I quite often set it up to say take the oxygen out first, take the hydrogen out second, and then take each of the other gases in turn. Reduces the chance of an explosion, but also it means it only ever runs whichever filter is most needed. There's also some logic that I've used in the past that just takes whatever the highest pressure in that waistline is and turns on that filter, which also can work as a way of just saving some power. But in the meantime, doing something is better than doing nothing, and we'll come up with some basic automation on that early on the next video. But for today, I think that's it. So we have got an atmosphere processing plant up and running, and we have got ourselves to a stage that we have now at least got the processes in place to clean the atmosphere in the hab and fill it with breathable air. We will need to introduce some carbon dioxide into this part of the hab because it's going to be the greenhouse, but we'll worry about that later. For the short term, we can just vent a waste tank in there. So that's quite a good start to have food, water, breathable atmosphere. So we're now starting to reach the point where we're no longer in danger of imminent death. We can feed ourselves, water ourselves, and refill our oxygen. We can start to think about building something a bit more fancy. So I will be doing that on the next video.